Be live. Hi, everyone.
Hey,
I'm
hey.
here with Mike from Gator's Garage.
Good afternoon from Georgia, y'all.
Good afternoon, Mike. You guys ran a tournament recently in Savannah.
We did.
How did it all go?
Oh, my soul. It was, well, first of all, it was exhausting. It was, I worked from home, so it was like Monday morning before I even got caught up on a reasonable amount of sleep.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic. The turnout from the community was excellent. At one point, we had 16,
Yeah.
and then we had three drop.
Oh,
And
that.
so we had
Oh,
an
yeah.
odd
That
number.
always sucks.
Yeah, and then one of the guys that was on, he's like, "Look, I don't have to play, but I can come." And he and another guy ended up doing a
Mm,
1,250 point game together, which was great because they were both new. They got
mm,
to take their time, dig through the
yeah.
rules. So overall, we had 14 tournament players, 16 people there playing. In my mind, that's a huge win for the hobby,
Yeah.
and certainly a good win for the Savannah Garrison.
Yeah.
It was our biggest tournament so far.
Yeah.
In specking out the room, just to give your listeners a heads up, our tournament limits are probably going to be 18. That's the
Mm,
most we can fit in that room, which is
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. I mean, many of the whole weekend GTs here in Europe, that's like 20 players, 25 players sometimes. So getting that together is pretty good for a local friendly game store, which is basically what you're running, right?
Yes, sir. Right. I like to
So
tell people, if people look for Gator Games, we're online. Well, I run
yeah,
it out of here, out of my garage.
yeah,
But unlike a lot of online retailers, I am literally up to my eyeballs in the community. We've got a game club meeting Friday night. It's going to feature Blood and Crowns. I go to the cons. I put on tournaments and events. If I had other game systems that were tournament, and eventually I will, that I find places to host those. So yeah, I'm effectively the friendly local game store for anything historical here in Savannah.
um, how big is the historical scene in Savannah compared to, because what we always compare to, right, is Games Workshop. How big is the historical scene in Savannah?
Oh, we're a drop in the bucket compared to the GW guys. I mean, there's three physical game stores in town.
Yeah,
Uh, one of which is really heavy into Star Wars and 40K,
yeah.
and then and really big into 40K because they run tournaments regular. And
Hmm,
then the other two sell 40K. The
yeah,
historical side is small,
yeah.
but we're actively recruiting. Um, of the 14 people or 16 people that were here this weekend, one, two, three, four, I think, were from the local area. So
Yeah,
I'll take that. Not
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Uh, so, yeah. So, and like I say,
A
it's
small
steady
but
growing.
a small but growing community.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. And you even had some a little bit of stardust at your tournament because you had some celebrity players going, right?
Well, I know John Ross was there, of course,
That's who I
and
meant.
yes, yes. And for those of you who've not had the opportunity, John Ross is amazing. And I think, Bo, I think he's like the rest of us that organize all the time.
Yeah,
He's just glad to be able to show up and play. Now, the nice thing is that he doesn't mind answering questions. But I will say during this tournament, I didn't get a lot of questions. And I don't think either he or Randy, who often gets a lot of questions as well, because Randy's,
yeah,
seen as a knowledgeable player, and
yeah.
Randy's my assistant TO, so he's very up on the rules. But it seemed like folks answered a lot of their own questions. I got a few. Some of them were hard. Honestly, most were just, hey, look in the rule book. So
Yeah,
that worked out real well. I always like it when I can just turn to the rule book and answer a question and not
yeah,
have to make an
yeah,
actual judge's decision. So that's pretty
yeah.
nice.
The best thing I ever got from a TO was at the first WTC where Paul Walker said, if you have a question, look in the rule book. If you can't figure it out, I'll say something, and you have to go with what I'm saying, no matter if it's wrong or right.
There you go.
Which is just that's the job of the TO. It's just to make the games progress, not to teach you the
Exactly.
rules.
Yes.
Um, so you had this game, this tournament, and you had actually a pretty nice prize table for such a small-ish tournament. Could you just talk about some of the prizes that you gave out here?
Yeah, and I mean it was even bigger. Gator Games actually contributed 4 boxes of infantry as well. So
Yeah.
we had infantry and blisters from Warlord Games, which is just awesome. We had sprues from Warlord Games as well. Those were actually donated by Gator Games. I opened a couple boxes of
Yeah.
troops, and we'll talk about the what's and whys on that. But so we had everybody walked out with at least one prize. The big box that you see there on your left-hand side, that is actually a German-themed bolt action accessories box. It will hold, I think I counted them up, 20 dice.
Yeah.
It will also hold in the dice graveyard and will hold at least 12 in the dice holder, probably more. It's got full color tokens as opposed to the plain plastic tokens that we normally see, and a compass rose that doubles as a HE template. So that was actually the grand prize. I gave that away along with a set of the tournament dice.
Mm?
And then, of course, I had the usual support from Warlord, which is always excellent,
Yeah.
of silver tournament dice, special figures. It was just amazing.
Mm.
And then a shout out to War Games Atlantic, who provided 3 boxes of German sentries. And actually, what I did with those is
Excellent boxes, by the way. Love
thank
my
you.
German sentries.
And it's really interesting because we see a lot of warlord figures mostly in this, especially in this game. But
Mm.
there are some other very solid manufacturers out there.
Yep. Yeah.
And War Games Atlantic, I hear that comment really often that hey, they're really good. I
Yep.
actually put a War Games Atlantic German Blitzkrieg group, I think it is,
Mm.
and British Expeditionary Force out as prize support. They
Yep.
got snapped up. People liked
Yep.
them. So,
Yep.
tip of the hat to War Games Atlantic for supporting us. They're very good about, I called them and I said, hey, I need German sentry sprues. What I did is I put a German sentry sprue in each of the swag bags. This is the first time I
Yep.
did swag bags. It was kind of cool. Everybody got
Nice.
a German. Yeah, everybody who came got a German sentry sprue. That may become a cornerstone of what we do. I like the idea of the German sentries because, like you say,
Mm.
everybody can use them.
Yeah.
So
Everybody can use them. They're so versatile, so useful. Yeah, I'm mixing mine with the partisans, of course, because I'm building Axis partisans all the time, and it's just such a useful little set. Yeah, and I love the
awesome.
dogs as well. The German
Yes,
shepherds, they're so cool and cute.
you're absolutely. And then the Pinard resin car, which didn't get picked up, that was donated by Warlord by Games. One more time, Gator Games and Books. I'll get it right in a minute. As well, it's actually part of Artina's tanks line
Mm.
of pre-printed resin tanks. That's kind of a growing segment, I think, of the hobby. You're going to
Yeah,
see more of those available. They
yeah,
get mixed reviews depending on the quality of the resin, and often they don't come with decals or anything, so you've got to second source that. But
yeah,
being able to take something out of the box, base coat it, and throw it on the table is kind of nice.
yeah. Yeah, I got 3D printed White Scout cars recently, and it took me 2 hours to go from 3D print to a complete vehicle, right?
Nice. Yeah.
So that was easy, quick, and because it's not the prettiest print, I didn't care about how bad it looked and stuff. I still did edge chipping and stuff, but I was like, yeah, it'll be what it the painting it will suck or it will work. I don't care. Yeah. Which meant I could do it really quickly, which was nice.
Yes. Yeah. So I think you've got a good sampling of everything we had there. So
Right.
uh, another thing that's a distinctive of the Savannah tournaments is what we call bolt action bingo. Uh, I don't know if y'all in Europe have bingo, but
Oh, we do.
it's okay. All right. So this is the
Although
same
it's
thing.
mostly like people that are retired that go to bingo nights.
So the way it worked is you had to get 5 in any direction. and you got a free sprue. And so,
brilliant. I love it. I'd steal that idea. That's just so fun.
Please do. Help yourself. If you like, I can even send you the files. My wife actually did all the artwork on this. So a shout out to the lovely Gabby Baker. But this was the second tournament where we used these, and everybody loved them. They were quite the hit.
Yeah. And some of them were quite difficult to do. Destroy a building? I'm not sure if with my heavy autocannons, that's not a thing.
Well, now a heavy autocannon does what? 2d6 hits?
Yeah, no, D3, no, D6 hits, but it's still D6. Only +3, so never going to destroy a building. That will never.
Potentially 2 rolls. If you roll 6 each time, that's 12 hits.
Could be.
Yeah, it's easier than you think. Ask the guys to get caught in the collapsing buildings.
True. But that's fun. I really like that. That's a good idea.
Like it. Yeah.
So talk us through the representation of nations and what you saw with how people were building armies in your local meta, because that's always something I'm interested in. How are people actually building armies in Savannah?
Oh man, and just all over the map. Of course, there were 4 British armies, one of which was Randy's with a Challenger. So we're starting to see some of these big tanks make their way in. So there was other than that, the British armies were pretty mixed. You saw some, I think you saw some LRDG. Definitely saw some Paras. Some folks were fielding Paras. So shading toward that veteran side because of the small number of infantry you often end up with, especially if you take any allotment of armor. Randy ran. He ended up running. What was his 2-gun tank that he ran? Oh, he ran some either 2 or 3 Vickers light tanks with the twin machine guns on them, and they were useful. He came in about 3rd or 4th. I think 4th, 3rd on points, but 4th in overall. And but he did good. I mean, he was right there. Many of the games were close, as we often say. The points don't always tell the tale. So he came in very close. With the British armies, that was kind of your mix there. Germans were absolutely a wild mix. I had one guy that fielded and it was just for funs and grins, that rocket howitzer tank.
Oh no!
And he's like, I won't do that again. Took up too many points and was not nearly as effective, but it was fun. Yeah. And I got to give the guys credit. Many guys are just like me. I just throw a list together. I'm just coming to play. You get guys that will game the meta, and that's okay too. We have different ways we enjoy things. This guy just wanted to try this out, and I was like, you got a small list, right? He's like, yeah, but I want to try the rocket howitzer. I'm like, all right, it's on you.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And then there was another fella who ran a Panther. Now he was trouble. Again, we have, I think, for the last couple of years kind of pushed off on the big tanks, but we're finding out that there's a reason those tanks were in the real world. They have an effect. If you can put them somewhere to lay down cover and they're hard to hit, that's some trouble.
Especially if you can scrape together the points to make them veteran, so that all the small arms fire, the AT rifles, the autocannons, all of that will just bounce off and you won't even get pinned.
Right.
What about the Italians? What were you seeing there?
Oh, probably didn't look close enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I know we had, John ran Italians. He definitely had a good mixed army. That was his, actually, when we go to review his army, you'll see some of his.
Just for the viewers at home, we'll take a look at John Ross's winning list in a minute, but yeah.
And then Chris Hutchinson was another Italian player, and he likes to run the armored transports and the moderate tanks. So those were really good. I know he seemed pretty happy. Both of his games ran almost the full length, the full 3 hours. Yeah, and so that was they definitely performed solidly. U.S. Army was all over the map. Yeah. The most notable was a U.S. Army that was literally half tanks and half infantry. The guy ran 5 Shermans and then
Wow.
built. Yes, and he did not. He didn't place among the top three, but he had fun. I remember telling him when I read his list, I said, "Your list is either going to be really dominant or you're just going to get slapped." He said, "I don't care. I'm coming to have fun. I'll probably get waxed. Don't care.
Brilliant.
Coming to have fun." And yeah, speaking of local players, actually, these guys were from relatively local in Statesboro, Georgia, which is about an hour away.
Yeah.
And so this guy, and it's actually a Warhammer club, but they're getting into bolt action. He brought him and three other players. So four of our 14 players came from this one club.
Always
And
nice to go fishing in those Warhammer players.
well, yeah. Well, they started a Warhammer group, and then I noticed they were posting some bolt action, and I joined the group, and just we all clicked, and they're wanting to do some more bolt action over there, so I've got to try and find some time to get to Statesboro. But bunch of great guys, and again, love the attitude. This is the list I'm going to play with. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
That's
just such a good way to go into a tournament, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. I've got a German list that I run, and I run it pretty consistently, and I do the same thing in Flames of War. I've got a list. That's what I run. Win, lose, draw, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The Hungarian list, good amount of armor, really well painted, just gorgeous troops.
Yeah.
Now that was a Savannah fella, Robbie. He's a fantastic painter. He actually does some painting for some of the guys in the group, and he's a pretty solid player, although his score didn't completely reflect that. I think he doesn't get to play enough, and so he's still kind of learning his way around the rules. But a great fellow. He actually had one of our new players in round one, one of our newest players, and they just had a great time.
Oh, and that's so good. Yeah.
Yeah. And overall, I would brag on all my players that, even some of the guys that I know kind of tweaked their list to be as competitive as they could be. I heard a lot of laughter. I saw smiles everywhere. Yeah. And that tells me that people were having a good time. And at the end of the day, if you're going to spend all day doing something, you really do want to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the reason we all do this, right? We may enjoy different parts of the hobby. Like I have been accused of being a whacker, win at all costs competitive player, which I am. I freely admit it, right? I am in it for the competition, but that's also something you can enjoy, and you enjoy it in that social contract with someone else. Basically, we're playing toy soldiers, and I want to win, but we're still just adult men playing around with toy soldiers, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So the top three was John Ross, David Surkamp, and John Carr.
Yes.
A nice spread, different nations for each of them. I like that.
Yes.
I mean, I would have, if I had looked over the players beforehand, I would also, I think, have bet on John Ross for overall winner. He's just a very good player. Although he has yet to beat me personally. Just saying.
That day's coming. I hope. I'm on the just for John's sake.
Yeah.
But it was close. You see, 10 points.
Yeah,
23 kills.
It came down to the kills.
Yes.
So that is really close.
Right, and we did something different too, and it seemed to eliminate. I don't think we had any tied scenarios.
Okay.
So what we ran was a secondary objective.
Yeah.
That was also worth a scenario point.
Oh.
And what that allowed is even if you didn't get the primary, if you got the secondary, you still got a point.
Yeah.
But if you got the primary and you got the secondary, you got 4 points, which is pretty solid. And like I say, it really kept scenario ties to a minimum, which was really good. I don't think we had any, so that was pretty good. Yeah, David Surkamp came with just a classic American Army, and he was very competitive. He and Randy played in the last round, and I think David won. Yeah. And so that was a close game. Kind of funny there. We had our scenarios were all themed to their boards.
Yep.
And then David and Randy, there was a snowboard, and the rule on the snowboard was beginning of the game, you rolled a dice on a 1 or a 2, you had snow flurries that limited your range to 24 inches. Every round that board was snowing.
No.
Yes, which gave Randy.
So they had 24-inch for the whole game.
Yes.
Oh man. They were just walking into a blizzard, couldn't see a thing.
Right, right. But everybody took it in stride, took it in good humor, and away we went. And then on the jungle board, you rolled every turn for rain, and players often had trouble remembering that, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It's there. It's we
As long as
go ahead.
both players have fun, right? It can forget about the like specific rules. It doesn't matter
Sure.
that much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
We
We
always get
also,
good compliments. Go ahead.
yeah, we also wanted to show you guys at home John Ross's army,
Yes.
which is also really nicely painted, and it is his Italians, which he also have brought to the WTC. So I've seen some of this army before. Look at those nicely painted native troops. They're storming a courtyard.
Yes.
That is just, yeah, that looks cool. So
And,
he had an Italian armored platoon with medium tanks. These are the M14, what I term darker tanks. It's the expression I borrowed from 40K. So it has a lot of medium machine guns, right? But it is still vulnerable, so it's not like a super tank in any respect. And in the environment like the meta we're seeing right now, they are pretty vulnerable. And then tankettes for the Italians, so good. The heavy Semovente, which is I think is really nice addition because of the medium anti-tank gun. So this is what he will use to go and hunt other people's tanks with, whereas the tankettes and the darker tank are going to hunt your infantry. So it's a really nice spread he's got here. He also had the Lancia armored car, which I cannot. It has turrets. I think it has again 2 machine gun turrets or something like that. And then a rifle platoon with an inexperienced platoon commander. He had the Paratichis, so submachine guns, stubborn colonial troops, which we just saw. 11 of those tough fighter, inexperienced dudes. I wonder how they did. Yeah, yeah. That they can definitely mess you up in close combat, but they'll also lose a bunch of guys every time they charge, right?
right.
And then another Paratricici with again 4 submachine guns. So he really wants to get up and close and personal, point
Yeah.
blank shooting his submachine guns. A company commander on top of that. Ouch! So he gets everyone going with that +4 and the snap twos. Veteran anti-tank rifle. Interesting. Inexperienced light mortar, the way I use mine. A Fiat for transport, that is for the veteran anti-tank rifle, or for the company commander potentially, I think. He could sit in that and just drive behind the tanks. Platoon commander, he takes an engineer platoon, so double flamethrowers. Ouch, 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 ouch. He needs transport for that, but oh, 2 of those. And a regular engineer green shirker, so that's just a small unit for taking all the choices that you have to take, and an artillery platoon on top of that. Wow, AA gun, light autocannon. Wow, I if I was running this, I would have wanted a little bit more transport, but this is a good list. What do you think of the list, Mike? Obviously, this one, but so we can't really criticize it, can we?
It's completely different from my play style. I
Yeah.
tend to go more for long range.
Mm,
Tend to run Germans and Americans. I haven't I don't have any Italian troops.
yeah.
Absolutely agree with the veteran anti-tank unit though. That
Yeah.
unit is going to be up there being exposed. You want it to
Mm,
be able to take hits. Although if someone drops a light mortar on it, doesn't matter how good your wound is. They're probably done.
yeah.
The armor component, I'm like you. I can't complain about it at all.
Nope.
Uh,
That's really
Um,
good. That's
it really is.
yeah.
Yeah. And as we've talked about, but as we've seen talked about online, and you and I were talking about in the run up,
Mm,
we're starting to see more large tanks. So
yeah.
you really do need to have some kind of heavy anti tank
Mm,
or at least a medium anti tank. Let's see, +5. Yeah.
yeah.
Like I say, in my tournament here, we saw Shermans, we saw a Panther.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to build lists with the taking for granted that most people would run medium and light tanks. I'm going to have to revise that. In fact, I did both a 1250 US and a 1250 German list just for loan armies on this last tournament, or 1250 British actually, based around my Africa Corps. And I went ahead and included that Sherman for some extra, both to suck up points, but also provide some anti-tank capability. And then on the German side, I included the Stug, again, for something that can kind of reach out and deal with whatever opponents are throwing at me. So I think we're going to see the big tanks come back in.
At least the for me the tank hunters I think are going to be key, and that's where we are going to see the Stugs and the Hellcats and all of that, because they're just so good at taking out the big cats, taking out that heavy tank, but still being cheap enough for you to run that and something else besides it. So I think the combination is, and I think it's actually needed, because as you say, you're very likely to run into that one person who brings a 9+, 10+, 11+ tank to a tournament.
Sure. Yeah.
It's more likely to happen now anyway than it was in V2. Yeah. So that was the report from Savannah. What is up next for you guys?
So we've got our club meeting this Friday. Like I said, we're going to be featuring actually Blood and Crowns. That's a game we're starting to kind of get into here. And then our next big bolt action event will be in June. We're going to do our summer tournament. Yep. It's going to have very similar parameters, 1,250 points, 20 dice cap. That seems to work pretty good for our guys. Going to look at dialing that time down to about 2.5 hours. The 3 hours worked. Yeah. But I would say 80% of the people were done at 2.5. Okay. So I think if we go to 3,
maybe you don't need the full 3 hours anymore. Yeah.
Right. So I'm gonna just try that out. I have yet to look at my players sheets, and I may poll the members and get a poll and say, do you want 2? Do you want 3? 3 made for a very long day. We started registration at 8. We finished last dice at 8. We had players out by 8:30, and then me and Randy were done packing up by about 11:30. Yeah. So and we had spent Friday night setting up. So made for a long couple of days. But we can't wait to do it again.
Which, by the way, you guys at home, remember to appreciate your TO and EO, right? It's a lot of work these guys are putting in for your enjoyment. So remember to say thank you. It's a very nice thing. Right. So that'll be in June. Your next event? Yeah.
Yeah. End of June.
End of June. And again,
the tournament,
18 tickets to sell?
That's correct. Yeah, we looked at the space hard where we were there this last time. Yeah. Going to cap it at 18.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Mike, good luck, and thank you so much for coming onto the channel and talking to us. And good luck with your own channel of Gator's Garage. I've been following that as well, and I will put, for people who don't know, I will put a link in the description for this video, so you can go and check out Mike's videos as well. Thank you so much, and that was it from us today. See you next time.
Thanks for having me. Y'all have a good afternoon.